Okay, welcome back. Let's break some records today. Today we're looking at Maria. She's a college basketball player and wants to go pro. And she really wants to know, um, did she score more points than at any point in the season or the least points, and count that up. She's very focused on her results, which good for her. She wants to go pro. Um, so the input format is a little interesting. I don't love it. Space separated integers describing um, our respective values of the score. Um, so it's gonna kind of look like that, and the first line contains an integer um, and the number of games. This really seems to be designed more for a different language where you can read an input file, a different language, excuse me. And JavaScript really doesn't have this as far as I'm aware. So I'm curious kind of how people are going to solve this with JavaScript. Function read line. Yeah, so JavaScript. I think I looked at this yesterday, which is annoying because I want to get better and actually remember these things. Yeah. See, to do this, they really want you to use a different library like Node.js. Somehow I imagine that the solution shouldn't need to bring in a library. At least that's not what they were expecting. Assume her scores for the season are represented in an array. Complete the breaking an integer array. And this is comma separated. So, I'm going to assume that the first object, or the first element, in the array is the number of games, and the remaining are their scores. I don't know that that's going to work, so we'll probably have some debugging to do later, but I want to give it a shot. So this is called breaking best and worst records. And our function is going to be called breaking records. I was going to do a different problem this morning, but I liked this one better, so this is what we're doing. So with that, we're probably ready to get started. So the name of the function is going to be called breaking records. And I'm going to call it down here. Oopsies. And we'll do some tests. So 10, 20, 15, 20, 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so 5 games, and then we'll do games and score. So this is another way to define a function. Kind of want to just practice it because it's a little different than the declarative function, but no, functionally works very, very similarly. And okay, so we've got our breaking records. We'll first get the number of games that we play, and then the scores. So what we're trying to do is let high scores equal to 0, let low scores equal to 0. And the first score of the game, or the first scores of the season, don't count. So if we look at their demo, explanation 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it actually might. So the first high score of the season was 4. I don't know why you don't have a low score of the season. 2. Oh, no, here we go. Game 0. 3, 3, 3. Then in the next game, they scored 4, then 21, then 36. So the first scores set the bar, but don't increment. Let current high equal to 0. Let current low equal to 0. So these are going to be what we've got, and then we're going to return or print rather the two values. So the high score space low score. So console log high scores low scores. And now somewhere in the middle, we need to actually define this. So it's a pretty simple loop, hopefully. Let for, oopsies, that's backwards. For let I equal to 0. I equal to 0. I less than games. I plus plus. So yeah, I had a comma there, which was triggering some issues. And so, okay. And now the games really should be the length of the score array. So this is me trying to figure out how they're going to handle the input. So we're probably going to have to tweak this a bit once we get into their console. But I'm pretty confident that this will give us the right answers, if only in a different standard input. So let current high equal to scores 0. And so actually we know that that's always going to be the baseline. So we can skip the 0th index and move right through to the other arrays to see if it's higher. So if games of I is greater than current high, then reset current high to be assigned to the games of I value, and high scores plus plus. So we can run through both of these. I can also just do an else if, since there's no reason to go through both. If this one is true, then this one can't be true. And so it would be redundant. But they are mutually exclusive, so I could just do two if statements as well. And now that should do it. Let's take a look. And I will say that should do it with the caveat that I have definitely changed the input format. So what do we expect? We expect two new high scores and no low scores. So that did not work. Interesting. Why are we not reassigning? So current game. It's because I'm looking at the wrong array. So current high was 10. This says it is now 20. So current high is now 20, and high scores goes up. To 0. Okay, so that's how I would solve this. Now, if you want to stick around, let's figure out how they're actually going to solve it for their input. So this is actually 1, 1, less than scores of 0. It's 2. So the changes. I'm now assuming that it's all in one array. It definitely said a string, but then it was comma separated and space separated. So yeah, runtime error. So this is my input. So let's figure this out. So this is interesting. Now I need to figure out how to take this string and convert it into an array. So find line break JavaScript. That's not what I'm looking for. So I think I can split on a new line, and the dot split JavaScript should return an array. Does not change the original string. return value an array containing the split values. Okay. So let games equal, well, let new input equal scores dot split on I think that's what we just saw. I wonder if I need the dot val. So that looks like it's jQuery, not JavaScript. So I don't think I do. So let's just start with that, and I want to see. What's my new input? My new input, great. So that broke up exactly how I wanted. So now we want to handle let games equal to new input 0. Let scores equal new input 1. And I'm going to need to turn, excuse me, turn that into an actual array if I want to use this. But let's just make sure that I'm, oopsies, why, scores has already been declared. So now I want to, excuse me, iterate through and say, how would I do this? If it's a space, I'm ignoring, but I also can't just do each character because then I'll do a 1 and then a comma separated 0. So for let I equal to 0, I less than new scores, well, no, new input of 1 dot length I plus plus if so what I'm thinking is that I can find the space and kind of splice. Splice or split. So I want to split the string. Oh, that's how I can do it. I can split the string on spaces. And I think that's actually a lot simpler. Yes, great. So we now have taken their input, which is this 2-line thing, and I learned something new that I can. There's no read line in JavaScript, but if you just split on the new line function, excuse me, you'll be able to effectively do the same thing. And then once you have that, you can start to orient however you want. So now this is everywhere that says scores is going to be new scores. So I think that should do it. Okay, so one new high score and one new low score. So 10 was our first high. We've got a low, we've got a high. So 1 and 1. And then, no, I should have 3 new low scores. So, or 4 more after that, and at least 1 more high score. So that didn't work the way that I was expecting. So let's see where things are breaking down. New scores, that looks like the array that I'm expecting. Games is equal to 9. Current high score is 10, and current low should also become 10. Okay, so now we're starting, I think that's actually okay. New scores of I is 5, so this is not greater than the current high, but it went into it, which is interesting. Because they're, it's using, it is. So what it did is it is looking at the Unicode value, and since it's a string, it is, it is in fact actually greater than the number 10. So how do we do this? Yeah, 5 is greater than the 1 in 10. That's how I use parseInt. Number.parseInt. Okay. Okay, so new scores is now going to be the 5, because that's where we're starting, and it is less than the low. 2 and 4. So we have 2 new high scores, 20 and 25, and 4 low scores, 5, 4, 2, and 1. That looks right to me. So let's take a look. Wrong answer. What do you mean it's not a function? This certainly looks the way that I have set it up to me. So Tempest, oh brave new world that has such people in it, separated by space, 10 elements. When you don't give a separator, it puts it all into one element in the array. And you can also use comma separate. I used a new line, which certainly worked for me over here. This should not make a difference. Standard built in. Slice is definitely not what I want. Why is this not working? Okay, so even when I do it without the new line character, and I just copy their standard input in, I'm getting the right answer. So I'm going to call it a wrap. I'm going to spend some more time debugging, but that's kind of where I'm at.